record. Let's make sure that's happening. It is being recorded, and now I will share my screen. And John, whenever you're ready for the next slide, you can just let me know.
Okay. I don't see it yet. Does everybody see the share? Oh, there.
No, here, it's coming. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so Dr. Canode and myself both have sections of 670. 670 is the Data Analytics Practicum. It is the capstone class. Tonight is to review expectations and review how the class is set up. And then you can ask questions. We have a lot of resources on our site for the class, and we try to keep both of them in sync at some level so we can share as much as we can across both classes. Next slide. So the goal of this class is to define a problem to solve or analyze, the goal for you, develop a project scope to analyze the problem, define the analytic approach to solving the problem, express the problem in context of statistical and machine learning techniques, justify the selection of data sets for the investigation of the problem, evaluate the results of examination of the data sets, develop predictive and descriptive models, evaluate the models that you create using suitable diagnostic measures, deploy and refine the model iteratively, and assess model performance. So the goal is that you're going to create your own project for this course. Next slide. So it's project-based. We want you to utilize everything you learn from all the data analytics classes. This should be taking everything that you learned and utilizing it to create one individual project. And so it's student-led. So pretend that you're a lead of a data analytics team for a company that recognizes the need for expertise in data analytics. And you're going to select a problem or an area that you want to review. You're going to select the data set and you're going to select the tools. And so you can utilize any tools that you utilized in the program, as well as any other tools that you know of about that are part of data analytics. So if you need to use Perl to pull the data out, or R or Python, or you want to use Tableau to analyze the data, or SAS or SPSS, you can use all the tools that you want. You can utilize this as learning or learning in more in depth of things that you learned in the program, and utilize these tools to complete the project. We provide templates for the deliverables. There's 3 options. Option 1 is the research study form. It basically has a set of sections, and you complete each of the sections. Identify, or the templates identify the number of paragraphs expected in each section. The next template is the crisp data mining format, and so it utilizes many of the similar sections, but it's more in depth of a data mining type project. And then the third is any of you, if you do one of the internships or do an internship on your own or create your own internship through work or another place, you can utilize that template. And they're all posted under one of the discussion groups that we'll talk about in a minute. There is a peer review group component, and that is to consult or critique each of your projects and work together. So the project is yours to work on your own, but we want you to present it to each other in groups. And then we also want you to critique each other. So pretend you're the advisory board. Next slide. So students will be divided into groups of 3 to 4. Each member of the group will act as an advisor. You walk through the capstone project. The use of groups will allow members to learn about other people's projects, but also to provide some insights or input to make other people's projects better. There are two presentations, actually three this term. Unit 5 and Unit 12, you work in your peer groups. And then there's going to be another time where we're going to meet as much as we can as a class and do smaller presentations to kind of show future students the type of projects that you can do in this course. The peer review groups, I would like you to send, or both Dr. Canode and myself would like you to send by Friday if there's groups that you want to be in. Maximum is 4. They have to be in the same class, so don't pick 2 from Dr. Canode's class and then 2 from mine. That will be too confusing, so stay inside your sections. After Friday, we will assign the groups ourselves, so they're all defined for you. Next slide. There are 2 opportunities, one with NASA and one with AIR. If you can send me your resumes if you want to participate. I'm trying to set up a time for Friday to meet with both where they can discuss their projects. But in these slides kind of give you an outline of their projects. So for NASA, everything they allow you to work on is online, available to the public. So you don't get any behind the scenes type stuff. It really is, they provide you kind of 2 problems that you can look at or more. And you have the opportunity to work with Brian Thomas, who is a data scientist, and he can guide you. They have opportunities for 2 students. So based on 46 students, there's a little limit, right? So it's send me the resumes, I'll go through them, work with Brian, and then he'll select. AIR, he can take up to 2 or 3 as well. Everybody else, you're going to have to create your own project, right? So I'm sorry we don't have 46 opportunities. We're trying to build that up. So let's go to the next slide. So NASA, this describes what one of the problem sets or one of the projects is to, based on the data set they have, is there different ways to visualize what's in their data set, kind of mine it, understand it. They just have all this data and they don't even know what to do with it. And so they're looking for ways to examine the data. And so there's no right or wrong. I mean, Brian has a team of data scientists and they've looked at things in different ways, but they're looking to see if you have something or find something that they didn't think of. And so that's what their benefit or what they are trying to get out of this. Next slide. And this is the second one. It just describes that you can go through these on your own. But it really is about their data sets to try to understand more about their data sets to see what you can learn from them. Next. AIR has many different projects, but most of them that students from this course have worked on have been education. They are looking to get into Tableau, so is NASA. Both of them are doing pilots to see how Tableau works in their organization for visualization. AIR has opportunities, like I said, in education, but also different areas of health, different areas of you name it, they have different projects. So it's for them, it's trying to hook up to a project that's existing. Last term, we had 3 students actually working together with a student that they hired from this program. And so they all had pieces of a project. It was a data analytics project, but it wasn't necessarily building a data model or visualization of data. And that's why the 3rd template was created. So it's kind of something that's not just a data analytics project. Next slide. And here's a couple more about school improvement, and that's seemed to be the focus for students from this program in the last few semesters. Next slide. So there are multiple deliverables. These are the first 5, so don't think there's only 5. Project selection, that's due at the end of week 2. Analytic approach, that's due week 4. The status presentation, that's week 5. Data compilation, data understanding, and each of those, it's one template, and there's sections in that template that you are required to complete. Next slide. And then analysis, evaluation, final presentation, and final report. And like I said, we have one more this term. We have a presentation, and I need to work on defining the rubric because I want it to be a small presentation and not your complete project. Next slide. The discussions, we group them together. So we want you to provide participation each week, but we grade it in groups. So week 1 and 2 is one participation grade. Week 3 and 4 is another participation grade. Week 6 and 7 is third, and week 8 and 9, and week 10 and 11. Week 5 and 12, they're not graded. Each week there will be a status discussion as well as a discussion related to the topics. So these two, for each one of these weeks, there's a topic, but I also want you to complete a status. So I'm looking for 4 at minimum posts per week, and then that's what we're grading you upon. We have many students that do 10 to 20, and then some students that do 1. And based on what you participate is how we grade. We do want you to participate. That's part of the class, and part of a virtual class is to work together, see what other people's doing, but also see what they're thinking about and kind of learn through that participation. I've had many students that don't do the participation, their grade affected by it. To me, it's free points. It's not something you don't want to do. I don't take late discussions. Where assignments can be a little bit late, discussions can't be late. Next slide. This is weeks 8 and 9 and weeks 10 and 11, and we have them all out there. Next slide. So to date, we've completed multiple semesters. I think we're past the 4. We have 6 students that have been in NASA over the semesters, 5 students with AIR. They've actually hired one last semester. People work together. What we found when we review the comments is not all students like the idea of determining your own project. And so the biggest hurdle is that first week, second week, coming up with your project scope and your data sets and what you're going to do. That's difficult for many students. They rather us give them or give you a project and say, this is what we want. However, this is capstone, and this is really where you pull it all together, and we really want you to define your project and work through it. You're going to be doing that in the real world if you're a data scientist, and so we're helping you start that process. We do find many of the comments from the classes, students do want to be data scientists or data analysts in their career, and I think this is kind of a helpful push. Next slide. So under the main or general discussions, there is a discussion area called project expectations. In that is everything you need to know to succeed in this course. The templates are there, the rubrics are there, examples are there, data sets are there. So everything that you can think of are there. When we get licenses for Tableau, that's where they'll be. When we have instructions about using different products, that's where they'll be. So project expectations should be an area that you review and get familiar with. and have a feeling of what is there. Right now, the examples are only units, the first two deliverables, but by the end of the semester, all the deliverables will have examples there. And so that's what you can look at to see what other people did. Now, I also have a post of data sets that I really don't want you to use because I've seen them 3 or 4 times and I really don't know if there's anything new, but I also don't want to have to, there'll be a hard time with originality based on what's already been done in those areas. And so there's a post out there that says, I think one is Baltimore victims, one is taxis in New York. I've seen 3 or 4 of them, and I think that data set is kind of utilized to its fullest. There's many other data sets. We've posted a few places. You can find your own data set as well. There's no minimum number of rows, minimum number of fields. There's no minimum. However, you need to think about having a project that's based on a 6-credit course over 12 weeks, right? If you can do it in a day, it's probably not big enough. It really is your project for the whole semester, and realize this is a 6-credit course. Dr. Cano, do you have anything that I might have missed?
No, I think you've hit it all there, John. Let me just see where I am here. Trying to get back to the. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I just want to remind people that when we say post in the discussions, which is an important aspect, we expect significant posts, not just good job, Mary, or nice try, Tom, or something like that. So, they should be posts that are insightful. That's part of the grade. They should be posts that contribute to the overall efficiency and effectiveness of the course. And same thing with data sets. Even though there's no minimum, remember, you're going to get better results, better models, most likely, if you have enough cases to fully expand the search area, if you have enough variables to give you a variety of ways to build whatever predictive models, if that's what you choose to do. Same thing with visualizations. If you're going to use Tableau, you want to have a nice, rich, robust data set. So even though there is no minimum, because we don't want you to wade in there and pick a 10 million row data set and then spend the whole 12 weeks with data preparation, data cleansing, etc. Think about, as Dr. McKeeby said, think about what makes sense for a 6-credit course, something that has enough robustness that can show your mettle. By now, you've reached the point where you've been through enough courses to know what a finished, sort of completed project should look like in terms of thoroughness. And I think the steps that are outlined in the course will walk you right through that. So this is your chance to build something that you can add to your portfolio that should be really helpful when you go for either a job interview, a promotion, etc. Remember, one of the whole reasons we made the MSDA competency-based was so that as you go through the courses and do things, all of which are based on doing, not knowing, you would have a completed portfolio when you're done. And this should be the capstone piece to that portfolio where someone says, okay, you've got an MSDA. What can you actually do? You can pull out your portfolio of projects you've done over the courses and say, let me show you some of the things I've done, whether it's data exploration, whether it's programming in Python, whether it's R, whether it's the capstone, whether it's something you did in SAS, something you did in Data610 with Watson Analytics, whatever it is, you'd have a whole collection of neat things. So this is your chance to really leverage the 12 weeks. I would also say don't get lulled into thinking you can spend just maybe 1 or 2 hours a week. Remember, the norm we advertise is 15 to 20 hours per week to do all of what you should be doing. Now, in this kind of a course where there's less structure and more on your own, you have to be very disciplined and make sure you're putting in the requisite time. And that's why there's so many feedback loops and grades along the way and checkpoints and milestones. So I think that helps keep you on track. I guess with that, we're ready to take on any questions you might have. I want to make sure everybody understands the mechanics of the course. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them. Remember, we're recording this, so this will be available for you to review later on if you want. Post your questions in the chat area since everybody's on mute except Dr. McKeeby and I. John, there's our first question. Can you use Azure machine learning tools? I think so, right? We're
Yep.
allowing pretty
Yep.
much anything. We don't use that in our program. We thought about it. There's only so many things you can put into, of course, a program, but certainly those are excellent machine learning tools. So feel free. You'd have to do a little more explaining as to what the tool did and how it worked, just so we could compare. But certainly that's if that's a tool you're familiar with or want to learn. That's another aspect. This might be a chance for you to go into greater depth on some of the tools you've already used and explore them a little bit deeper for this project.
We do have a TA for the course, and I believe the same TA for both sections. And so if there's some items that you need in R or utilizing Tableau or determining a model that might make more sense, he is available. So he does have a discussion area where you can ask the TA a question, and you can always email us and post to us, but we do have a TA available as well.
John, do you have an answer for the question about the Tableau licenses?
Yes, so I sent out on Sunday requesting. It takes them 1 week turnaround. So I'll have the license probably by Monday of next week. I don't think anybody will be visualizing anything by then. And so it will be out there next week, and I'll post it. I usually post it under the announcements, but I also post it under project expectations.
I'd like to add we have large classes. We have 23 in each section, so we'll be, again, I've set up 2 groups so far in my class that were requested by specific name. Again, as Dr. McKeeby said, if you want specific people in your group, make sure they all agree to be in your group, and then let us know before Friday, so over the weekend we can establish the groups. Remember, the groups are not going to be doing the projects. They're for feedback and critiquing. So it's still an individual project, but the groups can be helpful in providing a sort of a sounding board to keep you on track.
Yeah, when I was in graduate school, many groups selected me and my partner to be on their groups without asking us. So, like was said, please make sure everybody's a willing participant for any critiquing groups, peer-reviewed groups. We did have students use Watson. Is there a question related to that?
I think, John, I'm probably a little more familiar with Watson than you are.
Yep.
Watson Analytics is sometimes with very large data sets, Watson runs very slowly, but I don't think that's a real problem. I think you'll find that it's gotten better. Again, you do have to limit somewhat, but they don't put a restriction on the absolute size. It just seems to run slower. I'm not familiar with how slow R is. I think the last part of that question is whether R, I have not used data sets where R was a problem either. So I haven't had problems. Now, again, with so many people using Watson in our program, it might be a little bit slower, but certainly if you pick and choose your times, Watson, I've had students use very large data sets effectively. They just had to wait until it was probably a less busy time because, again, you're doing everything in the cloud online, so you're always subject to limitations on bandwidth and other people involved. Yeah, maybe with 50,000 tweets. So one of the nice things about Watson, as those of you can probably recall, and maybe some of you went through before they added this feature, is you can now use Watson Analytics to help analyze tweets from Twitter, which is a great addition. And it's something, again, you can use multiple packages, so maybe you'd want to glean some insights from Watson Analytics and some Twitter data, but use that in a different kind of model for predictions. Watson's strength is not in building predictive models at the moment. It's more in display It's much more in data exploration, but this fact that it can download, analyze, and build a data set automatically once you give it a few parameters out of Twitter data is a big plus. I haven't seen other programs that can do that quite as easily.
Any other questions? That's all I have.
Okay, great. I think we're up and running. I hope everyone's accessed the website. I think everyone in my class except one person seems to have done this. So you want to get up and get started. You want to give some thought. Don't converge too quickly to a project. Think about it for a few days, and then by the end of week 2, you should have your first initial foray. One of the questions that came up last time, John, and I think you answered it last time, is whether or not a student can switch their idea sometime, anytime through the course. Now, I'll let you answer that as you did last time.
So typically, I've seen students switch. I've seen them switch both the template and their data sets and their project. Typically, if you don't switch by week 4, it's very hard to get yourself on track. Week 5 is the presentation, so week 4, kind of having your project, your data sets, and your models that you're going to look at and how you're going to look at your data. If you don't have it by the end of week 4, it becomes hard to pull yourself on target. So I tell people you can change up till week 4, but that's really the last. It makes it really hard if you change past that.
Yeah, I would support that totally. Again, it's hard enough, but again, if you do get off on the wrong foot in your initial foray and switch early enough, you can still catch up. You're going to have to do some extra work, but we don't want you saying, oh my gosh, why did I pick this? But you got to make that decision. So that's why you want to spend a little bit of time diverging, as we call it, in the decision-making arena, diverging and thinking about more than one idea. Don't immediately say, oh, I got to get something in real quick. Think about it. Make sure you explore at least a couple of possibilities. Think them through. And then pick one and start framing it well as to what it is you're going to do, and one that you can access data to, and think about, are you going to focus on visualization? Are you going to focus on building predictive models? Are you going to focus on both? What are you going to do? So you got to think all that through early on, because that's so important to get that early framing done correctly, and knowing that there's data out there to support what you're going to do, and then you can get up and running. The production part is fun, but that early part, thinking it through and getting it framed, is critical to success. We have fixed the course calendar. That's been fixed. So the old course calendar was off by a week. The new course calendar is correct. This is week 1. Week 1 started 5/22 last Monday. So we are in the middle of week 1. So you have until week 2 to finish that first part. So sorry for that. We had a little typo there. So that's been fixed.
And we met last week. We had the recording from last week, and this week it's the same information. It really is to make sure we provide opportunities for you to hear it from us, and you can review them at any time, as well as send us questions at any time.
Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Make sure